Hi, this is Cora Stack again. This video is just breaking news, I suppose, but it's something that Bernie Sanders and a number of other people are raising in the US, and it's shocking, really, that it's going on in Ireland as well. So, who is winning in Ireland's cost of living crisis? Just the first is from RTE News this morning. Nearly 320,000 households in Ireland couldn't pay their electricity bills last December. Think about that. This is not a marginal issue. That's not a small pocket of hardship. That is one in seven households or families struggling to keep the lights on or the heat on. So the real question is not just why are people struggling. The deeper question is who's winning or who's gaining from all of this. Because in every economic crisis, someone benefits. Let's be honest about what's happening. And this is what Bernie Sanders is saying, all the time on X about what's going on in America. But let's look at what's going on in Ireland. When energy prices rise sharply, households pay immediately. But when wholesale prices fall, retail prices fall slowly or not at all. The gap doesn't disappear, it becomes profit margin. When interest rate rises, mortgage holders feel it within months. Banks stabilise their balance sheet. Shareholders recover faster than families. When rent increases year after year, property assets grow in value. Institutional investors gain long-term returns. Meanwhile, working people spend a larger and larger percentage of their income just to secure basic shelter. When groceries and food prices rise, households adjust. They cut back, trade down, absorb it. Large retailers operating in concentrated markets maintain their margins. When insurance premiums remain stubbornly high despite reform promises, small businesses and drivers pay the bill, but the structural pricing model barely changes. This is not accidental. This is how power works in markets with very weak intervention or oversight. Wealth transfer doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't require corruption or conspiracy. It happens quietly. Here's how: essential costs, energy, housing, food, transport, phone bills, all of that rise faster than wages. I made that point before, and the annual wage rise of all of these, they are higher than the cost of living. It's a shock that's you're having to take right across all essential services. Households absorb the shock. Savings are depleted. Debt increases, arrears grow, and profits in many sectors remain protected. This is a transfer of wealth from disposable household income to asset holders and corporate balance sheets. And this is what's happening in America, and it's the same story from America and from the wonderful Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, let's ask the uncomfortable question: where has the state been? Ireland has regulators, it has oversight bodies, it has consumer protections, but for decades, policy has leaned heavily on one belief: the market will correct itself. But markets only correct themselves when competition is strong, information is transparent, and consumers have real alternatives. Now, you wouldn't have to be a top class economist like I won't mention, to understand that fundamental principle. In many Irish sectors, energy, insurance, housing, competition is extremely limited and concentrated. Switching provider doesn't solve structural pricing power. So another issue is political caution. Strong price intervention risks investor confidence, it risks legal challenge, it risks upsetting powerful vested interests. So governments tend to prefer temporary supports, credit, once-off payments, relief packages, but we're not seeing any of those now, rather than structural reform. I mean, these kind of temporary supports are no good at all. What you need is structural reform. Temporary supports don't change pricing systems. And here we are, 1 in 7 households in electricity arrears, 1 in 4 gas customers unable to pay in full. This isn't about personal irresponsibility. It's about systemic pressure. Ireland is not a poor country. The state runs surpluses. Corporate tapestries are strong. GDP, its gross domestic product growth is high, and yet ordinary working people feel poorer and poorer. The squeeze in the middle. The contradiction in what many people now say rip off Ireland. It's not just that things are expensive, it's that essential costs seem disconnected from ordinary incomes, while profits at the top appear insulated. So who's winning or gaining from this? Asset holders, large corporate actors in concentrated markets, financial institutions benefiting from rate environments, property funds in a supply constrained housing system, and who is absorbing the risk. This is the point I'm making over and over again. Who's taking the risk, and increasingly taking the risk now with AI doing an awful lot of the screening for everything, the initial screening. Working households. Unless the state actively rebalances power, which there's no sign of them doing, through stronger regulation, competition reform, housing supply acceleration, and pricing oversight, markets will default to protecting capital first. That's not ideology, that's economic gravity. The real debate Ireland needs is not left versus right. It is this: should essential services, energy, housing, insurance, operate primarily as profit maximising commodities? I mean, this is the way everyone now is almost just a unit of a source of extracting finance out of our money out of. It's absolutely disgraceful, the way that the society and the way the governments are viewing the ordinary household as someone to extract as much money out of as possible for the economy, inverted commas. So this is not just unique to Ireland. Bernie Sanders the exact same thing about America, or as regulated necessities in a modern republic. Because when nearly 320,000 households can't pay for electricity, something structural is wrong.